Hi, Ivan. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. I think at this point, given the uncertainty of who's going to be in power, it'd be interesting to talk about the mechanics of what actually happens the day after the election when it's not a clear government, etc., etc. So, Ivan, could you tell us what's the process? What's the system?
Yeah. I'll talk you through that, Michael. But first, I just wanted to talk about the other big news, which is for the second time in just over a week, we've lost another legend of the music business. Ben E. King sadly passed away, and they say bad news comes in three. So after Percy Sledge and Ben E. King, I hope we're not going to see another passing of a legend in the next few days. So yeah, not very good news. So moving on to the mechanics of it, Michael, with regards to the election after Thursday, we're going to be in a situation where there's a lot of things been said about what could and should happen and what might happen and what's legitimate and what's not and precedent and all kinds of stuff. But the situation is actually quite simple. And the first thing to recognise is the way it works is that the Prime Minister needs to have the confidence, i.e., a majority, of the House of Commons. Now, normally, if their party wins a majority, it's kind of obvious they've got it. Or if the opposition party wins a majority, it's kind of obvious that they've got it. The grey area, of course, is when neither party's got a majority, which is almost certainly where we're going to be this week. And at that stage, people need to understand it comes down to who can put that majority together to get the vote of confidence through the House of Commons. Who's the largest party is completely and utterly irrelevant. It's absolutely nothing to do with it. Who wins the most votes, who wins the most seats, completely irrelevant. All that matters is can they get a majority in the House of Commons. So the first thing that'll happen then is that David Cameron, as the incumbent, gets first shot at that. He might look at the numbers and decide he's got no chance and step down. But if he thinks there's a chance he can get a majority through, then it's up to him to go to the Commons and put together a government. And then it's up to the opposition, effectively, to try and vote him down by raising a motion of no confidence. So if the opposition parties think that they can get together a majority to throw him out, they'll take that step of saying, right, here's a motion of no confidence, and that'll go to a vote. So if David Cameron wins that vote, he stays as Prime Minister. If he loses it, and you would imagine the opposition parties would only bring that motion of no confidence if they thought he was going to lose, then he's no longer Prime Minister. And then it's a question of Ed Miliband stepping up to the plate. He would go to the palace on the understanding he could get a majority, but he would have to get a vote of confidence in his government through the House of Commons as well. So then it would be up to the opposition parties if they thought they could vote him out to take a motion and raise a motion of no confidence in the House of Commons and try and get rid of David Cameron's government. So you would imagine they wouldn't do that unless they think they had a very high chance of winning that vote. David Cameron won the vote, he would stay on as Prime Minister. If he lost that vote, then it would move to the next person to try and have a go at forming a government, and that would be Ed Miliband. So then Ed Miliband would try to put forward a government and get a vote of confidence passed in his government. And this is where something called the Fixed Term Parliaments Act comes in. And it kind of lays out the rules for the law as to what happens in this situation. And the way it works is Parliament says that Parliament will last for 5 years unless there's a two-thirds majority to overturn that law, which is unlikely, or more likely, no party can put together a vote of confidence within 14 days. So from the time when there's a vote of no confidence passing David Cameron's government, there's 14 days during which time somebody has to get a vote of confidence passed in the House of Commons. So clearly at that stage, Ed Miliband effectively has got 14 days to try and get that vote through the Commons. Now, if you assume the Tories are going to vote against them, and some other parties, UKIP, etc., who knows, may decide to vote against Ed Miliband, he needs to get the votes together to be able to pass that vote of confidence in his government. And if, as I say, if he can't get that passed within 14 days, we're back to another general election. Probably unlikely that'll happen because when you look at it, most of the parties probably wouldn't see any advantage in going back for a very early rerun of the general election. They need to think they were going to come out of it much better than they had before. But I don't think there would be a majority for that. So most likely Ed Miliband would get through that vote of confidence. That's how the mechanics of it works. And as I say, talk about who's got the most votes or the most seats or the most this or the most that. It's completely irrelevant. All that matters is who can get their vote of confidence through the House of Commons.
And that was going to be my next question. Do you think there was a likelihood of election too? But Probably not. I mean, I can't see the polls shifting, but the mechanics of it are interesting because if you just watch it on the BBC, then it's all about getting permission from the Queen. They can't stop talking about the Queen.
Yeah, the Queen's role in all of this. I mean, she personally doesn't actually do very much. I don't think she's got an army of advisors that keep the thing moving along. It's a bit of a formality, really, because I think the rules are fairly clear. I don't see her getting involved in any of this to and fro, and she just sits and waits for whoever's got the numbers to present themselves, on the understanding that they'll get a vote through the House of Commons.
Yeah, well, the BBC royal correspondents are not really known for being a vicious pack of attack dogs in their journalism, are they? So,
Indeed, indeed. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. We've got when Thursday nights come and all the votes are in. I mean, in the past there's been a mountain of Labour votes. So should that crumble, we'll see what happens next. And if you look at the seats that they've looked upon for decades, if that should tumble and fall, I don't know about you, Michael, but I wouldn't be shedding a tear. And if I was Labour, I'd be afraid. I mean, their outlook is pretty dark, and I think whenever they're in trouble in Westminster, they'll need some votes, and I think cooperation with SNP is the only light that they'll see. And you've got to bear in mind, when Ed needs votes to get to number 10, I think he'll be turning round to Angus Robertson, and I think what we'll hear is, please, won't you stand by me?
very, very possibly. Yeah, it's almost a supernatural thing. Extra points to any listeners who can guess why we made those comments. So, thanks very much, Ivan. That's cleared it up for us, I think.
Super. Thanks very much. Talk to you later, Michael. Only 4 days to go.
Yes, and still everything to play for.
Absolutely.
If you watch First Minister's questions expecting enlightenment, then good luck to you. You'd have more chance of learning harmonic theory by listening to a bunch of police sirens. This is especially true in the present feverish pre-election period, when, for Labour at least, the idea of challenging the Scottish Government on devolved matters has been comprehensively flushed down the cludgy in favour of blowing giant raspberries at the SNP. I presume that's why Kezia Dugdale spent so much time yesterday yammering about Referendum 2, a sequel which just isn't in the 2015 SNP manifesto, no matter how hard you look, even if you ask Superman to turn his X-ray vision on it. To be fair, her performance showcased her full range of cheesed-off expressions, so perhaps she's not entirely comfortable with what she's being ordered to do. Maybe she comes skipping into work each Thursday, bubbling with innovative ideas about how to hold the government to account, only to be given the hairdryer treatment by a team of scrotum-faced spinmeisters who say, "Chuck all that in the bin, Kezia. Your job's to preserve the Union. So here's some scary old horse poo about a second referendum." There was actually a decent line of questioning about educational attainment, hidden in Kezia's diatribe, but like a shiny new penny in a tea chest of filthy old washers, its chances of coming to the surface were roughly on a par with Katie Hopkins being appointed head of the diplomatic service. It was left to Ruth Davidson to show how it should be done, using her recent photo opportunity experience as a tank commander to launch a few howitzers on educational attainment at the First Minister and, in the process, inflict a bit more collateral damage on Labour's reputation as a credible party of opposition. Just to assist Kezia and her Labour colleagues, plus Willie Rennie, who dunderheadedly raised exactly the same topic and, guess what, received a blutering similar to Kezia's, let me spell it out. Nicola Sturgeon won't rule out a second referendum because it would be presumptuous of her to do so. We, the people, are in charge of this now, and we'll ask for one when we're good and ready. No, don't thank us. It's been a pleasure rectifying your educational attainment gap.
And I've been some clever bastards. Now that we've had some, let's hope that there's lots more to come.